talked about schools, but even if you just walk
Very
out...
complicated agenda.
Does it actually mean anything at all?
Okay, this is right and wrong, but it doesn't actually follow it.
We've been in recession for a few years now.
Real stories,
We learn from one another.
real issues. Is Islam a threat? And real views. This is Real Talk.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another insightful episode of Real Talk on Muslim Television Ahmadiyya, where we engage in thought-provoking discussions on the most pressing issues of our time. I am your host, Zafrullah Lamino. Today, we tackle a topic that is central to human rights, social justice, and the very spirit of Islam itself: gender equity. Despite the revolutionary teachings of the Holy Quran recognizing the equality and the dignity of all people, women across the world continue to face systemic discrimination and barriers. In sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, the literacy rate for young women is about 72% compared to 80% for young men. In many local communities, these disparities are often compounded by cultural and religious interpretations that may not always align with the core principles of equity and justice enshrined in Islam. This raises critical questions. What are the true Islamic teachings on gender equity? How do we reconcile cultural practices with religious principles? And what role can legal frameworks, education, and community action play in bridging the gap? To help us navigate these questions, we are joined by distinguished panelists from various walks of life that is going to be doing justice to this critical issue. To my immediate right, I have Barrister Toyir Ahmad. Barrister Toyir Ahmad is a legal practitioner and the former legal advisor of National Youth Council of Nigeria.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for coming to the show.
You're welcome.
To his immediate right, I have Murabi Abdul Hakim Sulaiman. Murabi Abdul Hakim Sulaiman is a missionary of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat of Nigeria.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Next to Murabi Abdul Hakim Sulaiman, I have Ustaz Tawhid Ola Shoboyede. Ustaz Tawhid Ola Shoboyede is a central missionary of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat of Nigeria.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you for coming to the show. I also have here with me my indefatigable audience. Gender equity is not just a women's issue. It's a human issue. It's about creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, regardless of gender. As we navigate today's discussion, I encourage you to keep an open mind and think about how each of us can contribute to a more just and equitable world. So I would like to begin this critical conversation by asking Barrister Toyir Ahmad, in simple terms, can you describe gender equity and what key principles and norms underline it?
The word gender equity is a combination of two terms or two words, which are gender and equity. When we talk about gender, gender is a word that actually connotes different sex, is an identification of sex. Now, when we talk about gender equity itself, it simply means identifying different roles, rights, and responsibility for each of the gender, irrespective, without any form of discrimination, irrespective of their different gender. However, without overshooting the question you've asked me, I love to limit myself to the definition and move straight to the norms and principle guiding the word gender equity. And the answer to that is nothing other than fair treatment. The word fair treatment of any form of gender, irrespective of the particular gender in question. vis-a-vis their rights.
Jazakallah khair, Barrister Toure, for that beautiful definition of gender equity. I'm moving on to Maulvi Abdul Hakim. So, what are the common misconceptions about gender equity within Islam? We understand that a lot of people, most especially even in the Western world and in our local parlance here, that people have some different forms of misconception about gender equity in Islam. So in terms of gender equity and gender equality. So can you explain some of the misconceptions that people have?
Thank you. I believe that there are a lot of misconceptions in regards to Islam itself. But then when you go to the topic, which is the misconception within Islam in regards to gender equity or equality, we see that there are a lot of misconceptions. For example, we have those misconceptions in regards to Islam that needs to do with our social interactions. We have those that needs to do with our religious beliefs and deeds. And we have those that needs to do with matrimonial homes. For example, when you look at the misconceptions in regards to our matrimonial duties, a lot of people from afar assume that Islam has raised the men above the women in regards to their responsibilities and rights within their four walls of their homes. They believe that women are relegated to the kitchen or the other duties in regards to bringing of children and co. And when you go to our social beliefs or interactions, we have people believing that women could not lead. Islam does not give them the opportunity to lead men in regards to some fields of life. And when you look into religious activities, due to the fact that we often see Muslims praying 5 times a day, and we see their imam, meaning their leader, leading them in prayer being men. So we believe that there are no fields or opportunity within Islam that give opportunity to women in religious activities to lead as well. And these are some of those misconceptions that we have in regards to gender inequity or equality in Islam.
Thank you very much, Murabi Abdul Hakim. I will still come back to you regarding all these misconceptions because I need you to shed more light and clarity on some of these misconceptions. But before I ask you that, I would like to ask Ustaz Shubaydi, how do international rights standards intersect with Islamic teachings on gender equity? And how can these be harmonized?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In principle, what the international human rights standards advocate are not really different from what Islam promotes. The only intersection comes in from the conception and interchangeable use of the term equity. In the international standards, equity is being interchangeably used with equality, which is a misconception in itself, because equity has its own interpretation, while equality has its own interpretation. There is no way human beings can be equal. In fact, Allah never creates any two things equally. Everything and everybody is created according to certain measure to uphold and also fulfill certain obligations and certain duties.
Thank you very much, Ustaz Shubaydi, for giving us a little bit of clarity in terms of Islamic teachings and international human rights on gender equity. Barrister Toure, so can you give us some of the challenges? Can you, explain some of the challenges to achieving gender equity, especially in the African setup?
When you're talking about challenges vis-a-vis the question of gender equity, we must note that the first challenge should be that of inferiority complex. This in the context of gender. You get to realize that oftentimes where the question of being marginalized, being discriminated upon, therefore talking about equality. We want to be equal. We want the government to give us the same equal footing, equal platform, equal whatever. you get to realize that the first thing is that a particular sect of a gender is feeling marginalized, looking into himself or herself to be that I am not also qualified in this respect. The other party has a better advantage than I am. So therefore, I have been discriminated upon. Oftentimes, the greatest problem is you yourself and not other person.
But
so
sorry,
we have inferiority complex being the greatest of the problems.
But do you believe that some certain genders are being marginalized? Like if we look at our, like let us say in African setup now, do you believe that there are some genders that are marginalized, or do you believe that there's some people that have that inferiority complex that are discussing that challenge?
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. Please, when we are talking about facts, we need to contextualize on facts. An example here is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which encapsulates whatever culture, whatever tradition, whatever norms, principles, and beliefs of everybody in Nigeria. And you get to see that the only aspects of the Constitution from the beginning of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, up till the end, the only aspect that talks about the human right, that defines who you are, that defines your accessibility, that defines all your rights. Do not forget where we are coming for. Roles, rights, and responsibility of each of these gender and their interaction, the Constitution has defined it. In the Constitution, it says in section 33 up to section 43 of that same Constitution, each of the provision talks about every person shall be accorded right to life, section 33. Section 34 begins with everybody shall be accorded right to dignity of human person. Section 35 proceed right to personal liberty. Section 36, right to fair hearing. Every person is used. That is to say, there is no discrimination as far as the Constitution of Nigeria is concerned. However, there are some jobs that are more sensational, emotional, some require physical. And you see majority of people who are at advantage, you will use the principle of SWOT analysis to say, where do I have my strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats? And say, oh, I think I can do better by virtue of the requirement, not by virtue of the fact that a particular law, a particular framework had reduced it or had made it known to say a particular gender, male, should be favored upon. That is not the position.
Yes. Thank you very much, Barrister Tori, for that beautiful exposition. Morabil Abdul Hakim. So leading on from what Barrister Tori said, he has mentioned some of the challenges that we have as in terms of gender equity. So I would like you to give us some Islamic teachings and guiding principles to address some of these challenges. So he mentioned about the inferiority complex. He mentioned that the Constitution gave fair hearing to everybody, like everybody has the same right. But we still believe, because there was this statistic I quoted in the introduction, that majority, the percentage of men that are in the workforce is way higher than the percentage of women in terms in the workforce. And there's so all other statistics too that shows that there is gender discrimination in our local community here, even at the global stage. So Islamically, what are some of the solutions to these gender issues?
Thank you. I would like to start off with a psychiatrist by the name Dr. Neil Button saying that there are biological advantages and disadvantages in both male and female genders. With this being said, and we all agree on that, because when we give example of some sports, even not some, majorly all sports, female will participate or compete against females, and male will compete against males to achieve our spiritual goals. When we check the Holy Quran, Surah An-Nisa, Quran chapter 4, verse 125, Almighty Allah says that when he was talking about, he said, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى, whosoever does the good deeds among male or female, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and he is a believer, فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةِ, these are those who would be granted paradise. وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَكِيرًا, and they would not be diminished of their rewards. This plainly shows us that in striving in regards to our spiritual goals, because when you are talking about Islamic goal, we should go to the fact that Islam is, the first goal is to satisfy or to worship Almighty Allah. And in achieving these spiritual goals, Islam has not set any limits or boundary for anyone. Now we are talking about social responsibilities and what are the things Islam has put in place. When we look at the same Holy Quran, Quran chapter 2, verse 229, Almighty Allah says, and for the female, for the women are the same rights and responsibility as those that are granted to the male. Almighty Allah continue to say, Wali rijali alayhinna daraja, meaning for males, they have other responsibility that we have saddled them with. And Quran do not fail to leave us in shambles in regards to this responsibility or extra responsibility that has been saddled upon the males. When you go to Surah An-Nisa, Almighty Allah states there that ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa, that male are being granted this extra responsibility we are talking about. Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa bima faddalallahu ba'dahum 'ala ba'd, because Almighty Allah has put this extra responsibility on them. Wa bima anfaqu min amwalihim, and because they spent extra, you see, they spent on those wealth that has been granted to them by Almighty Allah. By nature, women are given the faculties and facilities to give birth, and as well to take care of newborn children, babies. With that, it's central their roles within this fair. And then Almighty Allah give extra responsibility to men to make sure that they take care of these women while they are doing their own natural, God-given roles. So in Islam, there are numerous occasions where women in Islam prove that Islam do not limit their abilities, rather give them opportunity, fair share of their own opportunity or rights within our society. And I believe that those who are feeling inferior in regards to their self-esteem or in regards to their rights, they should learn from these Muslim legends or warriors in Islam.
Jazakumullah khaira, Morabi Sahib. So basically, what Morabi has told us is that Islam has given the opportunity to women to strive, to become the best in whatever choosing career that they choose, that there is no limitations to what they can, to how far they can go. Ustaz Shobayede Sahib, the issue of gender-based violence and discrimination is alarming in our country here and also globally. So I want to ask you, how does Islam address issues such as gender-based violence and discrimination?
Thank you very much. Let me start by first informing us, because I don't know why gender should be an issue, because not only human beings are created in pairs. Everything, like Allah says, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Everything in the world is created in pairs. In the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom, everything is in pair. It's only human beings that have issues about gender. And that is why I want to support, to some extent, Barrister Toy's side, that inferiority complex. But that inferiority complex, Islam has come to remove it. There are three things here. Everybody should understand what he or who he or she is. That's number one. You must understand yourself. Who am I? Number two, what opportunities are available to me? Then those opportunities, how accessible are they to me? All these three things Islam has addressed. Islam has laid bare the level and vast playing ground for everybody to explore according to the capabilities or capacity endowed on him or her by nature. Don't forget that Islam is a religion that actually agrees with nature, because Allah is the one that created us. He knows our nature. He will not bring anything that will contradict our nature. And that is why Islam always agrees with nature. Now, by nature, you discover that everybody has right to the issue of equity. Let me tell you the issue of equity. It means making everybody to have access to opportunities to develop according to his or her capacity. And that opportunities are there. For instance, if we are running a race, or we want to run a race, everybody has to go and practice. If I go and practice and you go and practice, everybody goes and practice. When we get to the field, I cannot, because you are weak, reduce my own speed that you can catch up with me. I will continue to run and make sure I excel. So that does not mean that somebody has cheated anybody. You have only achieved as much as you can. Quran says everybody will achieve only what he strives for, and it depends on how much you can strive. The opportunities are there. For instance, in the Quran, in chapter 33, Allah mentions about 10 qualities, which males and females have right to vie for, and see what happens there. So if anybody tries as much as possible, Islam must lay bare the vast and very level playing ground for everybody to excel. Gender-based violence starts with harshness and hard-heartedness. And that's why Allah wants, when he talks to the Holy Prophet Islam, that it is only by Allah's grace that you are kind to them. If you have been harsh or hard-hearted against them, they will have dispersed from you, and you'll be able to see them. And that is why, before anything happens, there are actions and there are the reactions. If you talk harshly to somebody, the next thing you will get is harsher words. It takes two to tango. Nobody will be violent against himself.
Yes.
There will be a man and a woman before you can say there's a gender violence. So if they are living and that is why Islam emphasizes marriage in the right manner. If you marry in the right manner, according to the Islamic principles and values, gender-based violence, if not totally eradicated, will be reduced to the minimum, to the barest minimum.
Jazakallah khaira, Ustaz Shubede Sahib, for that beautiful exploratory advice on the issue of how Islam resolve gender-based violence and discrimination. Now, joining us live via call is Dr. Moshood Bello Sahiba. Dr. Moshood Bello Sahiba is a chief consultant psychiatric at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. Dr. Sahiba, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for coming. How do societal norms and stereotypes perpetuate gender inequality, and what can be done to address this challenge?
Societal norms are informal, mostly unwritten rules that govern the behavior of a group or community in certain situations. Stereotypes are widely held, generalized assumptions regarding common traits of a particular person or thing, based on group categorization, which may be untrue or partly true. Societal norm could lead to collective behavior that may, though appear unhealthy or irrational, persist over generations, but were not challenged. We will look at how norms and stereotypes perpetuate gender inequality by considering a prototype societal norm and stereotype. A prototype societal norm positions girls as caretakers, which lead to gender inequality on how roles are assigned and distributed at home. A prototype stereotype is a traditional gender stereotype attribution of agentic traits such as power, ambition, competitiveness as being inherent in men, and communal traits such as nurturing, empathy, and concern for others as characteristics of women. Looking at those two examples, we will see that girls are more likely than boys to engage in household chores, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria. Similarly, women spend 2 to 10 times more time on unpaid caregiving and domestic work than men. So, what are some of the way forward or things that can be done to address this challenge? The best way to address the challenge of societal norms and stereotypes is to go back to the true teachings of Islam, correct the misconceptions about gender inequality in Islam, and promote gender equality as originally portrayed by the true teachings of Islam. Education and public awareness is another way forward. Dismantling a pervasive discriminating culture requires measures such as changing the stories that children consume and internalize through media, books, or TV, as these influence how women and girls view themselves. As we could see, a lot of literatures of Ahmadiyya Jamaat, a lot of programs, educational one on MTA. Women education or girls education is another good one. Investing in girls education transforms not only communities, but countries and the entire world. And this is why we remember our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, educating a girl is like educating a whole nation. Other options to address this challenge include economic empowerment for women, leveraging on technology and social media, engagement of men and boys for gender inequality, that is, engaging them to speak out against discriminating gender norms that perpetuate discrimination, violence, and inequality. Positive adolescent and youth development programs are good ones as well, as adolescents and young people can be powerful advocates to influence positive change in their communities. Faith-based approaches and policy, as discussed in this program, are also good modality. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khaira to Dr. Moshood Bello Sahiba. Now, moving on, I would come to my audience. So I don't know if you have anyone that has opinions or observations regarding gender.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I think my little opinion here is the way we are using these two words, equity and equality. They actually means different things, but we are using them in the same way. Equity is when you give people something that befits them, something that when you give it to when you give it to someone and you give something else to another person, they are going to strive because you are giving them the same different thing that befits them. But when you are talking about equality, it's like you saying, oh, we are giving them the same thing. You must strive with this thing we have given to you. So I think while we shouldn't promote equality in Islam, gender equality, I think we should try as much to promote gender equity. The kind of opportunity you give to female should allow them to be able to strive in their purpose in life. And the kind of opportunity you give to male as well should allow them to strive in their own purpose in life as well. I think also we need to start reorientating the perception in which people think, oh, as a male children, I have this kind of preference over my sister as a female person. I mean, we need to reorientate our children that, oh, as a male, this is what you're supposed to do. This is your purpose in alignment to what the Holy Quran has stated. And as a female, this is the way God has made you. This is what you should do as a female. I think that's the little I can say for now. Jazakallah khaira.
Jazakallah khaira for that beautiful submission. So, do you want to contribute? Okay, so the brother also want to contribute.
My name is Mubarak Toye. In the world today, we have more people clamoring for gender equality, gender equity. In fact, we have more feminists today. The word feminism is now popular. We're not shy away that there are some society that some gender are deprived. There are some society that the genders are deprived from even basic education, There are some that's okay, they say this is for male, this is for female. We still have some societies that are like that. But the fact is that, yes, we are all clamoring for gender equality or gender equity. Following what Brother Habib said, gender equity is important, and know that's what Islam teaches. But we all know, we also not shy away that nature has given us role in life. And we can see that even in plants and animals. Yes, even in plants, we see gender-based roles in plants. In animals also, we see gender-based roles. When you look at the lifestyle of bees, where there are gender-based roles. So nature has given us, role to play in life. There are some roles that, befits men, and we have roles that befits women. That doesn't mean there's no gender equity. Let's just take profession as example. We have lawyers, we have doctors, but we see them that we will not say one profession is inferior to the other, but they have different roles to play. So that's just my little contribution.
Jazakallah khaira, audience, for your submission. Moving on, I would like to ask Ustaz Shobayide Sahib, that can you give us some successful examples or models that exist of gender equitable practices in African Muslim communities, and what can be learned from them?
Alhamdulillah, because Islam has come to teach us the right thing that goes with our nature. And that is why, for centuries, there have been examples been in practice in so many Muslim communities. For instance, we have different associations of women professionals, association of women lawyers, association of women media men, association of women business, so many. All these associations or organizations, they are only promoting the culture of Islam in the practice of their chosen profession. That is how Islam allows them to acquire all these skills and how to practice it, so that to show that Islam allows all these things. That is why we say we should not use equality in a definite or in a permanent term. You can give equal opportunity, but everybody cannot use opportunity equally. That is not possible. Ahmadiyya Muslim community, for example, by our administrative and organizational structure, have different organizations. We have the Masjid Ansarullah comprising male above 40 years of age. We have the youth, 15 years above, up to 40 years. And we have the female from 15 to wherever Allah allows them to live up to. Every one of these organizations are competing, like Allah instructs, that you should, first time we call it khairat, you should compete in doing good. Our female sections are given such opportunity that you have in them, you have professors, you have PhD holders, you have business tycoons, and among men also. They are in government, and they continue to show that this is the beauty of Islam as being propounded by Ahmadiyya, Islam Ahmadiyya. So we have all these examples in Africa, everywhere in Africa, which Ahmadiyya continues to exhibit.
Jazakallah khaira, Ustaz Shobayide Sahib. Moving on to Maulvi Abdulhakeem, what steps can individuals and organizations take to promote gender equity within their spheres of life?
I believe that we should look inwardly into what are the beliefs of groups, organizations, before accusing them of gender inequity, because when we look at the several countries where war are going on, there is no country that field female soldiers against male soldiers. And then when there is opportunity to evacuate people, females are evacuated first. This is not because they are weak. This is because all nations want to protect their progeny. They believe and know that the purpose, or one of the basic reasons why Almighty Allah has created them, is to progress and reprocreate. These are natural and primary assignments. We should first look into this. And we know that as females traverse in different fields, we have male also striving in order to lead and then to protect and provide as well. At the same time, we have female nurses And we have female doctors, female lawyers who give good arguments, who represent big firms in their field of life. This shows that these genders have qualities that are imbibed in them. So organizations, before bringing about allegations or carrying misconceptions here and there about religious organizations or any other organization in regards to how they treat a particular gender, I believe they should first be patient and look into what are the teachings of these people. For example, there is a conception or there is a misconception that because Muslim female girls in Islam wear porda, which we call hijab, that they are diminished in a way or they are reduced to a level of inferiority complex within them. But this has been proven to be false by when we look in the East Africa, in Tanzania, their president is a female and a Muslim there. She put on her hijab. So wearing hijab doesn't limit you, and then observing your religious rights doesn't mean you cannot achieve greatness.
Jazakallah khair, Morabi Abdulhakim Sahib. One critical point that you made is that your hijab or your porda has no limitation for you to achieve greatness in life. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to Barrister Tohir. Barrister Tohir, I know you're a legal practitioner, so can you tell us some policies or legal framework that are necessary to ensure equal rights and opportunities for all genders?
The topic gender itself, that same topic and the definition of gender is defined by Allah the Almighty himself. And as a result of that, Allah had given inalienable rights to virtually everybody, irrespective of your gender, whether a male or a female. So those rights are there, and we can say that the legal system, the legal structure is already there. All we need to do is to fall back to the Holy Quran injunctions. You understand? An example is Quran chapter 16, Surah An-Nahl, verse 98. Where Almighty Allah had already given us, be you a male or a female, you can strive, provided the platform and opportunities are there to achieve whatever feat you want to achieve in life, including spiritual. On the aspect as well is that we should remember that Islam does not encourage feminism because there is nothing like feminism. Rather, the best thing we are allowed to do Islamically is that role, do not forget that the definition we still ascribe to gender is that identifying, working alongside your roles, responsibility, and rights. So each gender should pick up its roles and try as much as possible to do justice and excel in that particular role given to that particular person.
Jazakallah khair, Barrister Tohir Sahib. Moving on, we will listen to a guidance on gender equity from the fourth Khalifa, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad. May Almighty Allah be pleased with him.
The fact is that what liberty Islam gives to women is not time-bound, nor is it space-bound. That liberty is eternal. And it also is needed by women today, because that liberty is withheld from women by even the most, let me say, for the greatest advocates of women's lib. They themselves do not offer them this liberty. First of all, let me remind you that women up till that time were treated as possession by all the societies of the world. So the first thing which happened in the world, which was so noteworthy because it was historic, or epoch-making, that was that the Quran declared women not to be a possession of men. And they were treated equal in their rights to rights against men, and men were treated equal in their rights against women. Now, this is the most difficult point to understand for some Westerners, because they think that Islam treats men with greater rights than women. This is not true. Islam repeatedly speaks of equal rights of men and women in everything. Only there are some constitutional differences which cannot be done away with. Women are constitutionally made different from men. So even the most eloquent advocate of women's lib cannot devise a way in which women can make men pregnant with their babies. It's not possible. So this requires a very special teaching. To keep into view all their rights as pregnant women or the future mothers of the future generation. As such, constitutionally, they also have to maintain the house and take care of the household things and cooking, etc., which is no different in Western society than all other societies of the world. So, keeping these things in view, one requires that a perfect teaching should also have regard to these constitutional differences. If it does not, it cannot be declared as a teaching of equal rights, because the rights are related to constitutions. As so often I have pointed out that if a lady, however strong she may be, is required to compete in a boxing match with a man who is the champion of boxing, what would you think would happen?
I think you should get beaten up.
Beaten to pulp, to nothingness maybe. Why, if they're equal? They're equal in rights in the sense that their constitutional potentials must be kept in view when you make them compete with each other. So this is what you do in a Western society as well, while it is not because of any religious influence. It is the reality of life which has dawned upon you that this talk of equal rights is just rubbish unless you pay special attention to these inevitable inequalities. So Islam pays attention to these, and that is why you find different teachings regarding women and men, but only in those areas where they are constitutionally different.
We've just listened to the beautiful guidance from our fourth Khalifa, Mr. Toir Ahmad. Now, moving on, I would like to hear our final thoughts on the topic of discussion, gender equity. Please, can you give us the final thoughts?
My final thought is that parents should not shy away from teaching their children, educating them from childhood about gender equity and what they could achieve in life, despite their roles or their natural roles given to them by Almighty Allah. And they should be given examples of great Muslim men and women who have led in the past and those who are leading in the present, so that they could be a better, so that we could all hope for better future and better opportunity, and community.
Jazakallah khaira, Morabi Abdul Hakim Saib. Ustaz Shubedi Saib.
Yes, my final advice, I want to summarize that our people, the government and people of the world should take their time to study the principles and values that Islam has put in place for centuries, so that they don't continue to use what the international human rights organizations started just for some 45 years ago. All these things they are now agitating for, advocating for, have been put in place by Islam. So they should just take their time and study everything.
Thank you very much, Ustaz Shubedi Saib. Barrister Toye.
I want to seek reliance on the statement of the fifth Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, Ayatollah Ta'ala bin Nazrul Aziz, when he visited Nigeria in 2008. In our gathering, he said, and I want to paraphrase, that whatever you find yourself doing, do it to be the best. Whatever that role, responsibility, and right nature had given to you, do it well and be the best, because we are the best of all mankind.
Jazakallah khaira to our panelists for coming to the show and for sharing your wealth of wisdom with us. We really appreciate you. And to my audience, Jazakallah khaira for contributing also to the program. As we draw this enlightening discussion to a close, it is clear that gender equity is a multifaceted issue that requires a comprehensive and collective effort to be addressed. Our esteemed panelists have provided us with invaluable insights into the challenges and opportunities within our communities, highlighting the importance of aligning cultural practices with the true spirit of Islamic teachings on justice and equity. We've also been reminded of the profound impact that gender inequity has on the health, education, and overall well-being of women, and by extension, our communities and societies at large. Remember, gender equity is not a destination, but a continuous journey of understanding, commitment, and action. It requires each of us to play our parts, challenge stereotypes, and advocate for fairness and justice in every sphere of life. For your questions, comments, and observation, please reach out to us on email via africa@mta.tv. Until next time, keep the dialogue alive and continue to champion the cause of equity and justice in your communities. This has been Real Talk on Muslim Television Ahmadiyya. I am your host, Zafrullah Lamino. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.